You were in government positions for over 15 years.
Yes.
You were so concerned about what was happening with Tahi that you felt unable to continue as effectively in your role?
Yes, but you have to interpret that as a personal position that I got into in terms of my capacity to lead.
The New South Wales government has staked its reputation on economic management.
These investments will make a real difference to people's lives. This plan sets up a bright future for New South Wales.
But now a major political controversy has erupted, casting a shadow over exactly how the state has presented its own finances.
That change in accounting treatment is all about saving $2 to $3 billion a year off the budget.
The train on platform 21 goes to City Circle via...
Back in 2015, the New South Wales Coalition government committed to set up what's known as the Transport Asset Holding Entity, which would control $40 billion of the state's extensive rail assets.
The government had the opportunity to choose what was important to them, accounting outcomes when it comes to the budget, or rail safety when it comes to the public, and they chose the accounting benefit.
The changes came into effect on July 2020. The government said this was about managing rail assets, but critics are now saying that it also inflated the state's budget coffers by billions over the last 6 years.
The government could both simultaneously lift the budget surplus when the state had a budget surplus, but also minimise the budget deficit when we had a budget deficit. And that is the reason why the government has been so committed to the Transport Asset Holding Entity.
When the government agreed to create the Transport Holding Entity in 2015, it had an immediate impact on the state's finances. All of the debts and liabilities from the rail network were transferred from the state's balance sheets to this new corporation and disappeared from the state's budget.
It's just a book entry, and the book entry is meant to save $3 billion a year.
Transport for New South Wales commissioned KPMG to produce a report. Its findings questioned the entity's financial benefit, triggering a furious battle between public servants and one senior partner at KPMG.
I think where Treasury were at in April, May and June last year was highly dangerous. I think they had lost sight of what matters with the public rail system, and it was all to do with the net fiscal presentation of the budget.
I just wanted to clarify in relation to...
Brendan Lyon, a then partner from KPMG reviewing the program, gave this assessment of the plans last week and told Parliament he was pressured by the New South Wales Treasury to alter his advice.
I was in an impossible position where on the one hand I was held to a contract that originated from the Cabinet that instructed that proper financial analysis and fiscal assessments be done, and on the other a firm that were conflicted and a Treasury that were exerting very significant control over that firm.
Months after the holding entity was started in July 2020, there was still uncertainty over how it would be run.
We're 2 months into the operation of this entity. Tens of thousands of people are using these assets every single day, and it is clear that KPMG knew at least that the government had absolutely no idea who was responsible for maintenance of rail safety.
Under those arrangements, the existing responsibilities remained, and so there was clarity about who was doing what.
KPMG told 730 it stood by its independent and objective advice. In its submission to the inquiry, it said it strongly rejected any allegation of wrongdoing made by Brendan Lyon.
As we sought to address some of the concerns around control and decision-making and accountability and who would be doing what within that space to get confidence and clarity that we could maintain safety, good customer service and good clarity about who was doing what, it became apparent that the top criteria in all of that was that we needed to make sure we met the fiscal objective of the treatment on the budget.
Rod Staples was Transport Secretary until November 2020, when he was unexpectedly terminated from his role without reason. Today he gave evidence at a parliamentary inquiry. breaking his silence and outlining the reservations he had at the time.
There was concern within transport, including myself, around Tahi's readiness to take on the role of the asset custodian at that point in time.
The government says it wants the report as quickly as possible to ensure public confidence in the rail system.
He said he was concerned about whether there were sufficient safeguards to prevent a repeat of the mistakes seen in the Waterfall train disaster.
If you reflect back on some of the issues that emerged through Glenbrook and Waterfall, it wasn't the initial governance necessarily, but it was the passage of time. New people come in, the understanding of what the intent was shifts a little bit, and you're working within the legal framework.
It's clear now that despite Rod Staples' best efforts to try to get the government to take this seriously, he failed. And as a result, the government went ahead with the Transport Asset Holding Entity, and for unexplained reasons, Rod Staples found himself without a job.
The New South Wales Treasury told 730 that Transport for New South Wales operates the entity safely and effectively, and said Treasury prided itself on treating all stakeholders with respect.
The real problem for the travelling public is that the government has put them at risks that they could have easily have avoided, and the public is entitled to ask serious questions about why the government decided to privilege artificially inflating the budget over rail safety.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.